Welcome, everyone, to Courageous Creative Conquerors. This is Jean Voice Dart. It's my belief that everyone has a gift of creative expression. We were born to express ourselves to stay healthy and happy. Whether you are planting a garden, writing a story, building a cabinet, sewing a scarf, or singing a song, what matters is expressing from the heart. And the creative and expressive arts are a healthy coping strategy that shifts us from trauma to triumph. So join me as we listen and learn key tips and techniques from our special guest and courageous creative conqueror. Our special guest today is April Tribe Giauque, author, podcaster, ghostwriter, survivor, and thriver. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Jean Voice Dart, and I have with me today April Tribe Giauque. Welcome, April. I'm so happy to see you here today.
I am happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh my gosh, it's just a delight for me to have you here. April has a powerful message for all of you today. So April is the very definition of a courageous creative conqueror, surviving and thriving through child molestation, domestic violence, and an eating disorder. But now she is a positive force in the universe, encouraging and inspiring people everywhere to be a beacon of light to the world. So April, can we start just with your childhood, sharing a little bit about your life and your passion and what led you to be who you are right now? Let's look at a childhood photo here, and let's see. Well, first, I think we have your father here. Okay, tell us about this photo.
Okay, so my dad, this is right, he got married in June, and then in July, he and his buddies all went down to the recruitment office because this is right at the time of Vietnam War. And they went down and signed up for the Air Force reserves. And an hour later, his draft number came up on the screen on the television. But because he had signed up prior to that, even though it was an hour before, he went to the Air Force Reserves and did not have to go over to Vietnam. And so he sat and riveted airplanes.
Oh,
this is my dad.
Goodness. Timing is everything, huh?
Right. Yeah. And he's a champion salesman. We always used to tease that he could sell ice to the Eskimos. He just could sell anything.
And what was the greatest gift you got from your father? What kind of relationship did you have growing up with him?
My relationship with my dad is awesome. I was the adventurous type. So he was always looking for an adventure. So out of the 5 siblings, I usually got to go because I didn't ask a lot of questions and I just wanted to have fun. So I was drug up many a different mountain, not really on a trail. I was in many a canoe that has capsized, but had a lot of fun. So running rivers, hiking, climbing, doing all sorts of adventures. And the name that we've all given my dad is Project. Anything with a project, he can do. And in fact, he has a t-shirt that says there's a beaver on the shirt and it says it's just one damn project after another. And that's my dad. So a lot of energy, what we call the tribe drive comes from dad.
All right, here we're looking at a school. Tell us about this.
So this is elementary school, Polk School, and I went to kindergarten through 5th grade here. Great old school, was about 100 years old, and my dad went there and my grandpa went there. So kind of the family history to go to Polk School Elementary. And I can still sing the school song for elementary.
You can. You want to sing it for?
Sure. I can't sign it and sing it at the same
Yeah.
time. So sorry about that. Polk School is the best school. It's the one we love the most. Polk School is the best school. It's the one for which we boast. We try, here we learn, here we study, and we work. Here are teachers and friends. Here will be forever true. So here's to the best school, to the one we love the most. Polk School is the best school. It's the one for which we boast. We'll sing out. Then we'll shout, rah, rah, Polk, we're proud of you. Yay!
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh, that
Our
was a
pride.
treat. Now, this is Courageous Creative Conquerors. Did you have a happy childhood in elementary school?
I really did. We had a lot of amazing adventures, and this was at the time where we walked to school, we walked back. So the neighborhoods became the adventure. We could go through people's yards, and it was just kind of a fun, accepted way to go home. And so neighbors were friendly, and it was a small community, and so really enjoyed the time there. So
Yes.
yeah.
And you didn't mention your mom at all. Did you have a good relationship with her?
I did. I had an awesome relationship with mom. Mom
Yeah.
was the one that went to all of the competitions. We started off swimming, then I moved to power tumbling and gymnastics and cheerleading. And out of the 5 of us, she never missed anything. She was always there. She was taking us to everything. And I remember her bringing the laundry and ironing it at my tumbling practices because they were 3 hours long. And so she still had to get things done. She worked full
Oh,
time. She would bring the ironing and iron. She didn't care. She didn't care who was looking at her. Nothing. She got to get the work done.
oh my goodness.
So
You're
my mom was just, she has the heart of the family.
mm. So let's take a look at, you mentioned that power tumbling. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so power tumbling is similar to the floor exercise in gymnastics, where you would just do lots of series of tricks, and we call it bounding, meaning you don't touch your hands. It's feet to feet to feet to feet in a series of 5, and another pass in a series of 5, and another pass in a series of 10. And if you're curious about it, you can look on the internet and type in power tumbling, and you will see these people fly through the air, and you'll be like, what is that? And that's
Yes.
what I did. So I learned how to tumble on anything. I could tumble on concrete, the wood gyms, grass, the blacktop with parades.
Yeah. So you were very athletic.
Very.
And that's your mom right there. What's her name?
Sue.
So let's take a look here at you and your mom, Sue Tribe, getting ready for power tumbling at regionals. And then this next picture is you receiving the 3rd place trophy in power tumbling in 1988. And then we have a picture of your high school, Ogden High in Utah, where you continued with cheerleading and power tumbling. As a matter of fact, you placed 2nd in the World Power Tumbling Competition in 1988, and you won the national title 4 times.
I was in 8th grade when I competed in the world competition, and then moved, of course, to high school and continued to tumble and did state events and took 2 other national titles, and then became a cheerleader. And because I knew that power tumbling was not part of like scholarship award for college, but cheerleading was. So with the tumbling, I knew I could combine that and still get a scholarship to go to college. So.
Oh, okay. So that's where that skill when
Yes.
singing the Polk Elementary song came from. You have that cheerleading background
That's
there.
right. That's what we did.
It sounds like you had a really colorful and exciting and athletic background and all the way through high school. And let's look here. So here you are with your missionary companions, Sister Leah Cahay and Sister Anderson. Tell me about these friends here.
So these friends here, these are my missionary companions. These lovely, amazing ladies, we share our testimony about Jesus Christ and knocked on doors, handed out scriptures, testified, and many people were baptized and converted from the Spirit. And so Sister Leah Cahay is in the middle, And then off to the side is Sister Anderson. So, yep, a lot of fun. And just that faith growing up was really strong. And I didn't have a picture of it, but I'll share this tiny story. I always knew that Heavenly Father was real and that he answered prayers, because when I was little, when I was 3, I lost my favorite teddy bear, said a prayer, looked over, found him, and I knew little me at 3, somebody in the universe bigger than me, knew my name, knew my immediate need, and helped me. And I'm in from that point, and it never wavered. Didn't mean problems didn't happen to me. Trials of life, of course they did, but I knew I could always depend on my Heavenly Father.
That's so remarkable. That's so special to have that throughout your life. And it just brings tears to my eyes, knowing that you had that when you were growing up, when you were a small child. Who in your life was the person that really encouraged you and taught you about your faith?
It definitely was my family. We never went to bed without a family prayer. We woke up, and before everyone went out the door, we had a family prayer. And we never missed church. Sunday, we went to church. We sang, we read. So it was just this understanding, and I just knew it from my heart. And so I never questioned that, because I had known since I
Yes.
was so little. And
Yeah.
I understand there's a struggle for so many people that can be really difficult. But for myself, that was definitely a gift and a blessing for myself.
Your family made it easy for you to have that strong background, so that when trauma affected you in your life later on, you had that to lean back on.
I
That's
really did.
beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, you certainly did. So let's look here at this next photo, and a big life-changing moment here. How old are you here? And tell us who that is and what's happening.
So this is my first marriage. I'm 23 years old. I have finished my missionary service. I have 1 year left of college. I'm going to be an English teacher. And Thad, it was my first husband, name change, by the way. And so you can see here walking off happy, yay. But it wasn't always so yay.
Yay, yay. So you're feeling happy, you're just glowing here, and then something happened here. And that's what your books are all about, and your passion in serving God, serving others is all about. April's first book takes us through her journey of domestic violence with her first husband, Thad, to surviving and thriving. And he looks a little bit different than he did in that happy, blissful marriage photo here. What happened?
So what happened, well, I describe abuse in 2 ways. And forgive me if I say this often, but here we go. So in abusive situations, domestic violence, there's 2 parts. And the first is a hunter, and the other one is a caged animal. Many of the people who we would associate with domestic violence would be a hunter, meaning that they know their prey, they camouflage, they set the traps, they lure them in, all for power and control, with that knowing in mind. Now, did they themselves suffer from things? It's possible. Did they have trauma in their life that was never resolved, so they needed to have this power and control? It's absolutely possible. Now, the other part, which is a smaller portion, are the caged animal. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. I mean that just as a visual. If you've ever seen an animal in a cage and you go to approach them, they don't know if you are there to help them or to hurt them, and they will strike out because they don't know. And so I paint this for my first husband, not as an excuse, but as a reality. He suffered with bipolar schizophrenia. He's on the autism spectrum, and drug and alcohol abuse. So there's a lot caged there. He has
Yes.
past trauma that was sexual abuse that was never taken care of. And so you combine all of that together, and I'm in the picture. And when stress happens, he first went to the bottle, to drugs, and then to other sexual encounters, trying to cope and deal with his life. And we would go in these cycles where we started well, I would get pregnant, I'd have a kid, and then we'd come up, but we'd never quite cycle back to where we were, because it was that the fall down, we get down to the bottom here, the repentance would happen, the I'm sorry, the remorse, and then the try to
Yes.
get better. And then we're back up to here thinking, oh, I can handle it again. I'll just take one more drink. I'll just try this other thing. And then it spirals down. So as it
Mhm.
spiraled down, that was really difficult. And the challenge for me was when the schizophrenia came in. The schizophrenia was part of that, where now I was warring or fighting with two other people that were not real, but
Mm.
very, very real for him. He saw them, he talked with them. And the story about that is in the book, so I won't share any more about that. But there will come a point where you're reading thinking, okay, I understand. And when you flip the page, you'll be like, what?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave it there. And
Yes.
in those cycles, ended up having 5 children, because we would kind of get better and then so
Yes.
that was a
Mhm.
challenge. And the abuse was a lot of severe neglect, trying to just survive on anything. Again, no spoilers here, but I'll let you read it in the book, Pinpoints of Light.
So you've spent many years, we're going to talk more about this, but um, really walking through this recovery from trauma and abuse, domestic violence. Before you met Thad and married him and went through that journey, what happened that you think, I think it's like a magnet. Um, those of us that have been through trauma, you get attracted to more trauma. So what happened in your life before you met Thad? Were there any key points or anything that happened that maybe made that attraction happen?
I was sexually abused, molested when I was before I was about 8. So there was a summertime. The neighbor had the trampoline, and so I loved to go over and practice. So my neighbor had the trampoline, and I would go over and I would practice. And in my focused practice on the trampoline, I didn't realize that my neighbor was watching
Mm.
and wanting and desiring. And as a young kid, you don't know the signs. It becomes a game. And then the game crosses a boundary. And when it crosses the boundary, I knew something was wrong. And of course, I was told, don't tell. And if you tell, it's your fault. So I'll leave it at
Mm.
there. And I talk about that journey in my second book.
Okay.
So, but that trauma not being cared for or really told to other people, you harbor that inside, and it became my poison. So
Yes, exactly.
the
It's
3 P's is what I call it. I would drink the perfection, the performance, and the pleasing. So
yes.
I had to please everybody. I thought I had to, especially in tumbling, you had to perform, be perfect. So this was a perfect combination for just a spiral like this. So on the outside, we have happy, smiley, jump around, April,
Yes.
and at home, my sister's like, ah, because
Yeah.
I wasn't so nice, because I didn't know how to deal with the trauma, and I could not tell, because this particular person was student body officer, was the top of the community, right? So it
Mm. Yeah.
makes it tough.
Yeah, it's so important to mention these things. And thank you so much for giving those points and how that seed, that insecurity started, and then that attraction to Thad later. But there were some happy, really wonderful gifts from the marriage with Thad, which is your children, as you mentioned. And here they are, the original Tribe 5, you and your 5 children from your first marriage, and your wonderful husband, Scott, from your second marriage. And the family just expanded. and expanded and expanded on and on. And you have such a beautiful family of you and Scott and your 9 children. And you went on to achieve your dreams, your dream as a teacher and as a published author of 2 books, Pinpoints of Light, Escaping the Abyss of Abuse, and Out of Darkness, Find, Fuel, and Live Your Light. You're probably one of the most giving and loving and passionate people that I know. In addition to being a ghostwriter and helping authors get their books published, you also freely give charitable giving to domestic violence shelters and encouraging others to get out of traumatic situations and shine their light. So I just mentioned that you give back in so many different ways. How important is giving, finding a way to give, either charitable giving or giving to family or others or friends? Or how important is that, and how important was that in your healing journey?
So important. I understand that the 2 great commandments are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, might and strength. And the second is like unto it, to love the neighbor as thyself. Well, look at the example. What did he do? He served others. He served others with love, with time, with actions, physical gifts, a few, but really he was there. And I remember thinking, who was there for me? And I listed them all out, and then going through and thanking each and every one of those, and then turning around and paying it forward of who can I thank now? And why is that important? To stand, to have the boundaries, and to thank and to give whatever you can is what we're here to do, because the relationships that are built with that are true light and love, and that's what's amplified.
Beautiful.
Love you, Scott. Love you.
Yes, he's just such an important part. And how important was he in getting your book done?
So he was super important, especially with the audiobook. He's the audio engineer for this.
Oh,
So
he
I
was.
read my
Okay.
own book, yes, and he did everything for that and more. I mean, very patient to go through and think about it. So second husband reading what the first husband did as I'm telling him
Oh
word
my
by
gosh.
word by word. There were moments where he's like, "We got to stop," and he'd go outside and was like ripping up weeds. He's like, "I got to rip the weeds before I just want to tear his hair off." And
oh my gosh.
it was a traumatic and learning experience for both of us to really reveal everything. He's very intimately listening, has to edit, clip, and cut. So listening often, several places. Whew, yeah, tough.
Yes.
That's why we love him.
And just that he's there, writing a book like that, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work, and having a husband, you've got 9 children and he's helping you with the kids so you can work, and you have to get up early just to post something at 4 a.m. or whatever you're trying to market and all this stuff. It's a big deal. So to have a supportive husband is such a godsend. It's such a blessing. So thank you, Scott. Who's this fellow? This is an important guy in your life here.
Yes, this is Officer Drescher. And he was the one on the night that my husband was arrested. So I won't give any more spoilers than that. He gave me a card, and that card saved my life. It gave me resources and information that completed my plan, because I had about 8 minutes to escape. I don't know about you, but if you have 5 kids and you've got 8 minutes, what do you do? What do you take? And I can't say it enough. His opportunity for me to get out was amazing. Now, this picture happened in April, just a few months ago of 2022. I'm speaking at a conference with Elizabeth Smart. Yes, the woman who was the girl who was kidnapped and for all of those months and then was reunited with her family again. I was speaking at that conference, shared my story, and I had talked a little bit about it with some people at a table, and one of the people worked at the same police station that he worked at, gave him a call. He left work and came to the conference
Oh,
and popped up. I couldn't believe it. He walked into the room and he said, "Do you know who I am?" And I was like, yes, it
oh,
was. Oh, it was the flood. Usually the
that
people in the
makes
room,
me
we were
cry.
crying.
Oh,
It was such a surprise. I had
that makes
no
me
idea who
cry.
was going to be there. And I'm like,
That's
"You're on page 165. Look, here you are."
what a beautiful ending to the story. He got completion, you got completion. That's
Right.
just beautiful.
There you
Yeah.
go.
You talk about Thad in the book, and you talk about him with a viewpoint of understanding and compassion and love, which might be hard for people to understand. This is your abuser that you're talking about, but you reached a point in your life where you stopped, like you said, you stopped being the victim, you shifted, and you're able to do that in the writing of this book. You're able to shift, and your heart is open, that you can see both sides. You can see the abuser's journey and trauma and what led that person to abuse. But I wanted to read what you said here. With each step, I felt like I was home. The light held me, it encased me, it filled me, and suddenly I felt my Heavenly Father's loving arms around me. I was quiet in His beam of light. He allowed me, a fallen, pain-filled, hurt little girl, to be with Him, my Father. I was encased in this light, His light, and then I began to feel a sense of my home, like my mom and dad were here supporting me and walking with me in His light. I saw others, felt others who loved me. I began to hear the gentle strains of music that added to the light as it beckoned me forward. That's so beautiful, April. Your writing is so emotional. It's poetic prose. It's just really beautifully written.
You can't stand within the light and try to have darkness around you. The darkness is back there. So we're always in light. Where we focus, if we're in the dark and in the shadow will always be there because there's always going to be light. Where is our head turned? So I say that for a visual, because for the longest time I was looking at the dark, the poor me, the victim, oh no, no, something else, waiting for the next shoe to drop, blah, 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 blah. And it was just a simple prompt that said, just turn to the light. It was so quiet. And I remember, okay. And then the idea, it just started to roll down. And that idea that I have with a pinpoint of light, if you've ever been in a cave and all light is absolutely shut, you can feel the muscles in your eyes stretching for any
Yes.
hope of light. And if it's just even a tiny match, you're focused on it and you know where to go. It's that idea of the network, and mom and
Yes.
dad were amazing. And there were times where what they did was that they surrounded with love and they did not judge. They just loved. And I'm sure to themselves they were probably like, we're going
Yeah.
crazy here. But they never let me know that, because there were times where I would vent and vent and vent. And then at the end I would say, but it's not time to leave. And I'm so glad that they held it in, because I could still have the trust with them. So when it was time to go, and afterwards when I was out and everything was done, they were like, oh, I'm like holding my breath. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
Yay.
yeah, I know, sorry.
She
But
finally got out there. Yeah.
right. But so
Yeah.
if anything, parents, friends, coworkers, to be an ultimate supporter,
Yes.
allow them to share and just show up. Just be that first responder. Don't give them all these things to do. And if they don't do it, give them constraints to say, well, that was 3 times and you said you were going to, and then you didn't.
Yes.
Never know their situation fully. So
Yes.
just be there to support. It's like a fireman. They don't come into the house and said, "Who started this fire? I'm not going to put this out till someone tells me who started the fire." No,
Yes, and
they just show up and they take care of everything and let the investigation later figure it out.
Yes, that's
So
a
if
good
you're going to be a
example.
supporter, just show up, do the thing, write it out in your journal if you have to vent it, but never share it with them because you don't know their situation. Just love them.
Yes,
Don't judge them.
we can't give advice. We don't know the situation. And some of us, we don't have that family support, maybe because the abuse was in the family and we can't turn to family, but we have family out there. There's community support out there. There's groups. So it's so wonderful the time that we live in with social media that we can find support. You have a group yourself, and I have my group for grief and trauma, and we can offer support. And then others, they can be supporters, be a supporter, look for groups, and then go out and give to others as April is doing. And you can do this. You've got this.
That's right.
So
You absolutely
April,
can.
thank you so much for showing up here today. And thank you all of you for joining us with Courageous Creative Conquerors. And we appreciate your support. And if you have any questions for April, if you'd like to reach out to her, her website is here. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure, April. Thank you so much. You're just such a gift.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. To see more Courageous Creative Conquerors videos, join the weekly creative community calls, or learn more about private sessions, visit genevoicedart.com.